think we start with. I think I plan is that I will just ask like a few questions and then let the viewers ask. Okay. Maybe I start with Kent first. Yeah. I want to ask about the film's title and the film structure. Yeah. Can you tell us about the idea behind it?
So the title is Sunny, and Sunny is Sunny is the Malay word that closest approximates the meaning of art. Yeah. So I guess I think people might have to correct me here if I'm wrong, but like the before I think the story goes that before this Malay was kind of colonized, the idea of art in the Western context wasn't something present here, and then there was that idea of art was kind of introduced with colonization, and so and so by and large I'm an artist curator, so I've always looked into these this curatorial histories and art histories are my interest, and so the film basically is about a exhibition of the first exhibition of Singapore art in London in 1955, and I guess and in many ways it looks at the focus of the film has been the tropical rainforest and or the jungle, and how using that as a way to look at, say, a certain kind of art history or the intellectual history of the region. Yeah.
And I also want to ask about the narrator, the sort of narrator or the first protagonist, and the ways in which that you I'm not sure you direct him, or the way in which that you let him sing instead of just talk. Yeah.
I kind of know that the thing is going to be very talky. I think the very simple explanation is that I just wanted to find a less boring way to have somebody say a lot of things, and I saw him at a open mic session once, and I thought the way he sings was quite interesting. When he sings, he really has an accent, right? He's Indian Filipino. So, but when you speak to him, he really just speaks with a Singaporean accent. But when he sings, he has a very different kind of accent. So, So I think when I was trying to conceive of the work, so I thought about getting him. So he's kind of like a YouTube singer. Yeah.
Okay, then I turn to Kamchon. I will also be Kamchon translator. Yeah. อยากให้พี่พูดถึงความสัมพันธ์ของการทำงานระหว่างพี่กับพี่จักรวาลเดี๋ยวแปลก่อน I ask him I want him to elaborate the relationship between him and the other director, Jagawan Nin Thamrom, because for the last two films, he is a co-director with the other director, and as you can see, for the last two films, he not only just be the director, but he also stars in both films. Yeah.
ผมกับอาจารย์ชาวานเคยทำงานร่วมกันมานานแล้วครับในด้านของโปรดักชันที่เรารับงานทั่วไป ในสื่อโฆษณาหรือว่าอะไรหลายๆอย่างแล้วก็การทำหนังสั้นหรือว่าหนังทดลองของมหาลัยในการเรียนการสอนของนักศึกษา
Jagawan Nintamrom, who is the other director here, he is a director and he is also a lecturer in Thammasat University, and he works with Jagawan a very long time, and as you can see, he works as a gaffer, yeah, and he is also in the same group, same like film collective, yeah, withจักรวาล And in this film, how did you manage to work with him? Because normally he worked as a gaffer, yeah, for Jakrawan, yeah. But for this film, yeah, as you can see, yeah, the relationship has changed.
คือตอนแรกที่เริ่มงานเพราะโดยปกติของอาจารย์เขาจะมีงานแสดงในส่วนของเขาในทุกๆ2 ปีที่เป็นงานแสดงงานอาร์ตที่เขาทำอยู่แล้วก็พอดีปีที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยที่ทำเรื่องนี้คือเขาเอาโปรเจกต์ของผมในส่วนหนึ่งที่เป็นเรื่องเกี่ยวกับนักรบและเป็นชาติเข้าไปมีส่วนในการทำงานของเขาแล้วก็อีกเรื่องหนึ่งก็คือในพื้นเพที่บ้านที่ผมอยู่ที่ต่างจังหวัดที่มันมีเหมืองทองแล้วก็ที่ชาวบ้านเขาไปหาผลประโยชน์แต่ว่าถูกปิดกั้นแล้วก็มันมีกลุ่มคนที่แบบมีอำนาจในสังคมไทยเราเข้าไปใช้พื้นที่แต่กับไม่เห็นเป็นอะไรโดยที่
normally Jakrawan will normally Jakrawan made films or film installation every 2 years, yeah. But for this year, not for last year, because this film was made in last year, yeah. Jakrawan had known that Kamjon has written stories about the armed soldier, the high Chinese soldier, yeah, who fought for Thailand because they want to get the Thai citizenship, yeah, and Jakrawan also have read Kamjon's story about the forest and the gold mine, yeah, in his hometown. So it's like Jakrawan like okay, decide to that okay, this time he will work with Kamjon and co-direct the film with him. Yeah. Okay.
I have a question actually.
Okay.
I have a question for both. So I think there are similarities that I observe in both films, in the sense where in both films there's a certain exposure of the production side, of the filming, of the behind the scenes, and obviously it's both deliberate. And of course in Kamjon's experience is about himself in the first film. It's about his production life as well. Whereas I'm sure it's quite different for Ken. So I'm interested in why is that exposure important in your films?
I think I'm just very skeptical about. I think I'm just kind of skeptical about my own narratives sometimes. In some ways it does problematize the whole how you read the film. Of course, it also becomes this. I mean, it's so done also that it becomes problematic also. But then I think for this one, I think there's certain things I just couldn't hide, right? Like it's also like the guy's on the boat and I'm filming him, and then I don't have enough time to like film him on the boat without the crew, so I just kind of film him on the crew with the crew anyway. So part of it is also our convenience. I mean, in that sense, I don't mind not showing. I don't mind showing the crew in that sense. Yeah, and yeah, I guess it's also just introducing a certain amount of doubt in my own, in what I'm saying also. Yeah.
Okay, as they're still discussing. So you were talking about an amount of doubt. And of course, this film is also about introducing a certain art history. So is it the sense that you were conscious of your own authority, like within this film, or I'm just asking about the sense of doubt. Yeah.
I mean, like it is a very liberal way of telling, like a very liberal retelling of a particular history, right? So I guess in that sense of, and that's the reverse, right? Like with me being so liberal about it, I think it's also like, I think, and that's the flip side, right? I mean that's the flip side of. Yeah, like I don't necessarily feel that, you know, in me being very liberal about how I tell this history, then I think that's also like, it's important to know also that that's not the only other way that it can be told. Yeah, it's probably very kind of, yeah, I can see how some people think it's quite like a problematic way of retelling like a particular episode of history. Yeah.
Yeah. For Kam John, he thinks about the idea of like exposure, that this is a film, right? Yeah. For him, he says it's like because it is about his life here, and since he works as a filmmaker, so it's like he cannot like differentiate or. Yeah, it must tell. Yeah, it must be told in this way. Yeah, and also I think for the other director, Chakrawan, he's quite concerned on the transition between the era of film to the era of the digital. Yeah, so it's like the idea of exposure of what's behind the filmmaking can relate to this idea of transition.
I mean, at least to me, it's certainly interesting to watch it back to back. The digital film, which is a lot about the man's life, the exposure as well, with the artifice of production, and then watching a 35mm projection, which is very cinematic, and how that relates to each other. Thought it was very interesting.
Okay, maybe.
I think at this point, of course, we would like to open it to the floor. If anyone has any quick questions, this is the time you can ask either both Kent or Kam John. There's one question.
First question direct to Kent. Maybe you can enlighten us. One is why you portrayed Mr. Ho Kok-ho as does he has a significance, importance to you? And second question to Mr. Kam John. I'm very interesting to know that there's some short snippets on the Chinese Nationalist Army, and what got you interested to film them? Thank you.
Should I begin? So, I think like I mentioned, I also work as a curator. So, and what I find interesting about Ho Kok-ho was that, I mean, he's also he's an artist by training, artist and architect. but he was also like the president for the Singapore Art Society during the 50s and 60s. So I think in 1955 he decided to go on this really long trip to Europe and to the US. And the story goes that only after he arrived in London did he started looking for a venue for exhibition. I mean, he brought along with him like 200 over pieces of artwork, right? So, and by some minor miracle, he found a space, and then that exhibition became the first exhibition of Singapore art in Europe, even before became the Singapore it is today, right? Before it became like a country, you know, an independent state. He's from a very wealthy family, and his family has a very high standing and also in politics and whatnot. And for me, what was interesting is that, you know, he actually felt like he had to go all the way there to put up an exhibition, to kind of have a pilgrimage, he studied like Chinese. I mean, he's Chinese literati, but he also studied like Western art making, and then and it really just kind of goes back to this idea that, there's always this saying about how, like artists from the peripheries, from the region, always had a certain kind of anxiety to get acknowledgement from the West, and that for me was like, him going all the way there to do that was, really kind of spoke about that anxiety. So that's, I guess, but actually my training is also in film though, so that part kind of like was always kind of the human side of the things kind of was also a certain attraction towards looking at this exhibition. I guess the main focus had always been the exhibition. It's just, but then there was a very human side to it also, through Ho. Yeah.
ในส่วนของกลุ่มที่ทหารรับจ้างแล้วก็นักรบแรงงานชาติในประเทศไทยมันเป็นเหตุการณ์ในสมัยช่วงที่เราผลักดันคอมมิวนิสต์และช่วงนั้นผมก็ยังอยู่ในวัยเด็กที่ว่ารู้จักกับกลุ่มคนกลุ่มนี้คือเหมือนเป็นลูกของเขาที่เป็นเพื่อนๆกันนะฮะแล้วคนกลุ่มนี้จะไม่ถูกเปิดเผยจะถูกปิดในเป็นความลับที่แบบว่าเหมือนกับว่ามันไม่มีตัวตนในสังคมของไทยหรือว่าการเหมือนมันยังไงก็คือแบบในสถานการณ์ที่โลกเปลี่ยนไปแล้วก็เหตุการณ์ที่ว่าทุกวันนี้ระบบเศรษฐกิจของโลกที่เปลี่ยนไปประเทศที่แบบว่าเราเคยผลักดันหรือเราเคยร่วมรบอะไรเงี้ยก็กลายมาเป็นพันธมิตรในการค้าอะไรแล้วมันก็แบบเขาก็ไม่อยากจะเปิดเผยให้คนกลุ่มนี้มันมีตัวตนขึ้นมามันอาจจะมันมีผลกระทบในด้านความสัมพันธ์ระหว่างประเทศอะไรเงี้ย
he have known the stories about these people for a very long time because it's like his friends are one of the children of these nationalist soldiers, and it's like this group of soldiers fought for Thailand in the communist era, which is like 30-40 ปีก่อน like 30 or 40 years ago, and it's like these groups of people need to live a secret life, like they cannot show their identity, but after the time has passed for 30 or 40 years, we have went to the globalization, and all the structure of power of the region has been changed, but there is still these groups of people who still live a secret life, and then there is some irony because it's like 30 or 40 years ago, Thai states try to fight with the Chinese communist regime, but in two days, of course, the Thailand and China has become a big friendship or something like that. Yeah. So and on that background, yeah, he really wants to film the stories about these people.
Are there any questions from the floor? This one here. Sure. Oh, we're recording, sorry.
Hi, thank you for sharing your film. I have a question for both of you, but it's also maybe loosely related, and both has to do with specifically Kam Chong's last film, the epicness of it. So for Kent, there is a very clear sense. It is, I think, a little bit problematic the way you put it, but so I want to know more about why, knowing that it is problematic, why you still decided to direct it in the way that you did. Specifically, that mythologizing of this heroic figure that is the artist curator, and knowing that in the film you acknowledge that art becomes this colonial enterprise or colonial heritage, but still that track from the forested third world to this imaginary first world where you can have an exhibition. So what is that? How do you not necessarily reconcile or resolve, but how do you address that tension in the film? From your film training, it's tropes, visual tropes of very heroic material. So that's one question. And for Kam Chong, the question would be specifically about the sound design of the last film. It was so very tactile. I think especially the reverberations were very powerful. Everything was turned up to 11. What about the forest, or what about that space made you want to put it in such an epic way? And was that intentional? Can you tell us a bit more about the sound design? Thank you.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing you do. I'll be very honest about this, right? Like, there's a certain kind of just one second, yeah. Okay, so let's just put it this way, right? Like, I don't really know how it ended up like this, and it's weird, right? Like I think eventually what happened was that the script does take a certain kind of epic poem form, yeah, without me being aware of it being an epic poem, yeah, and so the epic poem does dictate a certain kind of sense that there is a certain kind of heroicness, and so that's also, I guess that's where the problem began, right? And then after I shot the thing, then I looked at it, I was like, oh shit, yeah, okay, right, like it romanticizes the jungle, which is a problem, yeah. So which is, thank God, this is still like a work in progress. I think I still kind of wanna tweak it, yeah. And I think it is my own kind of colonial hangover that somehow I end up with this epic poem form. Yeah, like I just, there's some kind of, but it's the kind of thing where I don't want to be penalized for my own use of for my English, right? So I'm just saying that a lot of the things was decided because of the text, right? And the text set a certain kind of structure, a certain kind of form for the work. And it's one thing writing it, and it's one thing making the film. And the filmmaking was, I think by the time I was trying to make the film, and it was, because it was part, I think I kind of rushed certain things, and you just kind of go into it and hope that, and then and then it turns out a certain way, and then yeah. So I think this is something kind of like, okay, let's try and make it a little bit less. Let's try to fetishize the forest a bit less. Let's try, and it's still a bit of a process right now. And I'm trying to still try and see how I can dial it back, you know. But that's as best as I can give you right now.
ที่เขาถามใช่ไหมคือมันลักษณะว่าเราอยากจะเปิดเสียงให้มันดังกล้องระวานไปให้ไกลให้คนได้รู้ได้สัมผัสได้มากโดยเฉพาะว่าในประเทศไทยนี่มันเป็นยังไงล่ะลักษณะคือเราถูกปิดกั้นทั้งความคิดและการกระทำทรัพยากรของชาติไม่ได้เป็นของคนในชาติแต่เป็นของคนที่อื่นอย่างเรื่องอย่างเมืองทองเนี่ยโดยที่แบบว่าทุกคนไม่มีปากมีเสียงที่จะบอกกล่าวอะไรได้ซึ่งการที่เราทำหนังเราอยากจะสื่อมันเป็นสื่อในวงกว้างที่คนสามารถมองเห็นและสัมผัสได้และรู้สึกกับมันได้แล้วก็เสียงที่ดังมันก็จะได้ยินไปไกลซึ่งมันไม่สามารถที่จะบอกกล่าวผ่านหน่วยงานภาครัฐซึ่งเขารักษาผลประโยชน์ส่วนมากเลยครับกับคนกลุ่มน้อยนิดกลุ่มหนึ่งที่คนส่วนมากของชาติเสียผลประโยชน์
Okay, yeah. He decided to use the very high volume because he wants people to hear it, and and he also wants to say that it's like Thai people, especially the Thai villagers, are always shut up. Yeah, it's like the government of the soldier will told them that to shut up, and it's like he wants the film to be very loud, to be their voice, and it's like as you can see in the film, like the forest or the forest or the mountain, who owns it, the question is who else owns it, and the government try to prohibited the villagers to access the forest or to access the river, but as you can see in the film, you can see like rich people came to the forest and built temple and also those things, so that's why he wants to make it like very loud, and as a curator, I want to give some background. In Thailand, there is a very famous case. It's like the case of villagers went to a forest to pick up a mushroom, and that villagers was jailed. Just to pick up a mushroom, whereas you can see like the multinational company went to a forest and to do a gold mine or something like that.
Sorry, I just wanted to. I just remember one thing also. I think when I set out to do the work, a lot of it was really trying to be able to think about. For one to think about art and also the tropics at the same time. So that's also like, and that's, if that helps.
Before we maybe end off with one last question from the floor, if anyone has any questions, I'd just like to make an observation as well. I think just for today's session, it just so happens that the guests that we have today, I feel that their films that they presented came from a very human-centered position. Also from art history, which is human-related, and also from politics, and of course Kang John's own life as well, very personal histories that we're talking about. But I do like I mean from Greywood, who actually programmed this, I do like that the other films in this selection didn't focus a lot of the humans. You know, there's a lot of animistic ways, insects staring at you, and a lot of just language shots of the nature itself. So, I mean, with this observation, if there are any questions for Greywood, you can also ask him about the whole curation. This is just my observation. Are there any last questions from the floor? Okay, there's one. We'll end off with that last question.
Hi, this was for Kent, and this is really about a question about your previous response to the question that came before. And you've used the phrase epic poem a number of times. I assume that's a specific reference to Chua Mya-Tee's work, which was also produced in 1955, the year that Ho Kok Po went up to London. I mean, is it intentional? Are you specifically foregrounding political tensions there? Because, of course, Chua Mya-Tee subscribed to a certain ideology, whereas Kok Po's perhaps embrace of colonialism and the anxieties of the provinces, as you put it, it comes across very strongly.
Actually, it's funny. So I mean, like Saint Eugene's interview in the film, right? And only belatedly, then he sent me a photo of the like Chua Mya-Tee's painting, right? I mean, we all know of it, but then he also pointed, only after that he pointed out, hey, you know, this was done in 1955. I was like, ah, right, yeah, that's true, you know. So the fact is also, I didn't realize that I was writing in an epic poem form. It's also I always kind of said that I kind of wanted it like operatic, maybe. I work with a dramaturg, and that was always the word I was using. Only after like seeing it like a few times, then I realized, okay, maybe like the best way to describe it is actually the epic poem. So in that sense, that's actually quite like accidental. Yeah, yeah, like I said, it's something like I think that's a description I stumbled upon. That wasn't the goal to begin with, but I guess that was a form that I was trying to make.
Okay, with that, we'd like to conclude the session. And of course, thank you everyone for being here. And just a reminder, we have screenings. We have about 3 more sessions this weekend, starting with a session at 5:30 later with the films by Api Chapo and Naomi Kawase. And for tomorrow, we have 2 feature films, so tickets are available at the door. You can always just come and buy a ticket. It's pretty cheap, it's $8 if you want to. And of course, with that, I would like to thank Ken Chan, Greywood, and of course, Kam John for being here. And thank you everyone for staying. And thank you. Good night, talking.